My father couldn't swim very well.
Oh.
And in fact, everybody swam. And I met my wife swimming. We went to Jones Beach. I swam out about a mile and a half. And I left her sitting on the blanket. So I took a rest after I swam out. I said, now time to go back. And I look around and I see a little head bobbing right behind me.
She's
I said, what are you doing out here? She said, you were out here. I wanted to see what you're doing. I said, I'm swimming. What are you doing? She said, I'm swimming too.
Well, so Dad, go back to the story about the nets.
Okay,
So you
back to the net. So I came back to the net. I came back to my father. I dumped the bait into the bait bucket. And he said, go and get some more. And sometimes there were little killies in there with the shrimp. So we had shrimp and killies for bait. And my father put 3 or 4, he made all his own fishing equipment. He took a piece of bamboo and then he put, he got the little eyelets. He bought the eyelets separately. And then he used some kind of aviation glue or something. And he glued it there and then he wrapped it with cord. So it tightened to be very hard and those eyelets wouldn't come loose. And so he made his own fishing poles. He also had 1 or 2 that somebody gave him, which he fixed. And he had several reels, which he also fixed. Because he took them apart and something was broken in there. He made a new one. In the basement he had a lathe and he had a drill press and all the stuff and hammers.
He had a big kettle.
101 hammers of all different shapes because building airplanes, you never know what kind of shape hammer you need. And I suspect somebody made those hammers too because they all look handmade.
Yeah.
So nothing was purchased except the drill press.
So what did you do with the big net?
With the big net, he took the little shrimp out of it, put them in the bait bucket, and then he put them on his hooks. He had 3 or 4 hooks on a fishing rod, and so he could catch 3 fish at once if he got to hit it in the right place. The buoy would go down, and the line would be taut, and he'd reel it in, and 4 fish or 3 fish at once.
What kind of fish?
Whitefish and perch.
I wonder if they still have it on the East Coast. There's a lot.
We went in the ocean and he
crabs,
caught
too,
lots of, I remember, whitefish.
Whitefish.
And they were off. I went swimming off the shore, and after I got beyond the breakers, he said, yeah, stay away. Don't stay away from me. Don't swim in front of me because my hook is in there. My rod is in there, and I went in there anyway. And he was shaking his fist at me. Don't swim there. You scare the fish away. So he really was worried more about the fish than about me. Because I was splashing around and making a lot of noise.
No, that was when you're older, you're younger. It was his job to go find the crabs, right?
Oh, well, after
They'd make a bonfire on the
if my
beach.
fish had really
They'd get there
if
early
my
in the
father
morning.
really had bad luck, he would send me and my sister out with a crab net. And so we go back to the other places where the dock was falling down, and we'd walk out on the dock, and then we'd look down in the water and we'd move that net along very slowly, and there'd be a crab in it. And then later on we learned about chicken feed. When we had a chicken, my mother always saved the feed. I said, what are you saving the feed for? She said, I'm saving it for your dad. He wants those feed. Yeah. And he put them on the hook. And they were bait. The crabs love chicken feed.
Yeah, Mike does a lot of fishing. So
Okay,
we
so you
actually
know all
we
about
went
that,
clamming. We
I'm
tried
not telling you anything you don't
No,
know.
no, it's interesting though. We tried to go clamming with Mike in Oregon, and we got a couple. Even Sierra was trying to dig. You know,
In the mud?
I think I remember her, or we used her, but in San Diego, Brendan says over by SeaWorld, you and Brendan went clamming.
Used to go, but
Yeah.
it's gone.
Right. Well, it's all changed. Right.
Oh, mussels.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
mussels.
We got
We
a lot
love
of
mussels. We ate them Italian style. We took them off the pilings. The pilings, they climbed up the pilings, then it was low tide. We just moved the rowboat under there and just pulled the mussels down. Even if we couldn't get crabs, we could always get mussels. And my mother put them in a pot and then
But so with your
them all.
family, that was your main protein, right? Growing up, because you told
It
me
was a depression. We couldn't afford to buy meat. So this was in the 30s. I was born in 33. So all of this stuff happened during the war, 43, 42, 41, 42. And so crabs and mussels, my mother would say, he looks kind of unhappy. I think we're going to have crabs and mussels again tonight.
Now people, you kill to have crabs and mussels. And
yeah.
Now it's expensive, yeah.
Well, I think
yeah.
I love mussels.
The-
I love mussels.
the fauna, or when it's not, if it's ocean, is it considered, if they're marine animals, is it still fauna, or is that for land animals?
Let's see.
It's fauna, so it's probably changed a lot because I don't know if there's been a lot of overfishing over there. Or
not
blue
really.
crabs, you said there are a lot of blue crabs, and that's what you were
Yeah.
Blue
catching.
crabs is what you catch on the East Coast. Dungeness
Yeah.
on the West
Yeah.
Coast.
He has a funny story.
Well, that's when they lived in Maryland. They lived in Chesapeake Bay.
Yes.
There were a lot of blue crabs in Chesapeake Bay.
Well, my dad's story too was driving home. They had wet burlap for the crabs to crawl on in the car, so they'd have to
In
lift
the
their
back
feet.
seat, yeah.
Lift
No,
their
I don't
feet.
think
You
so.
okay, Betty?
I'm just going to the restroom.
Oh, okay,
And get
yeah.
some more water.
Okay.
So later on, they moved to Maryland. They lived near Annapolis, on that river there, and they went down there and they.
Who's they? Your parents?
Norma and her.
Oh no, we're
husband.
talking about your parents, though.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
we're talking
Yeah.
about the water and fishing. And
Well,
crabbing.
I'm mystified by the smoking, smoking the fish because this.
Oh yeah,
that's how
my
they
father
survived.
made the
is
first
they-
thing when he moved out of New York City, out to the suburbs. He got a big oil drum, and he cut out the ends of it, and he made holes in it, and then he put shells in it.
Yeah.
And then he had a shed he made, and in the shed he had all this wet wood. And my mother said he keeps the wood wet there. I said, why does he want wet wood? Why not dry it out? Put it in the fireplace. She said, because that's to feed his smoker. His smoker was going to smoke the fish. They're
Use
all going
wet
to turn
wood for
yellow.
a smoker.
They're all going to turn yellow.
he's
Well, all the neighbors came over,
Ah.
and he saw the neighbors. He'd say, how are you? And they'd say, they were Italians. He said, here's a bottle of wine. My husband made it. And he said, oh, I have something for you. And he'd go out to the back, and he'd look in the shed, and there's 3 or 4 yellow,
Whitefish.
smoked whitefish, yeah.
Whitefish.
Well, some kind of fish.
Yeah.
He got other kinds of fish, too. But he smoked it all.
Mhm.
And it lasts a long time when you
Right.
smoke a fish. It really lasts a long time.
Well,
That's what they did
yeah.
in Finland. You notice
Well,
them smoking
that's the thing
fish?
is, I mean, even though he was Estonian, but when I went to Finland, I stayed in a pretty rural area, and that's what the owner of the hotel was doing one day, was just lining up his little fish with it. And I went, whoa! It's just like I heard growing up.
Yeah, we
so,
come from a family full of.
Yeah,
We lived on fish for the first, at least I did, for
Yeah.
6 years.
yeah,
And mussels and
right.
crabs.
Yeah, but the beach was so important. They spent all day at the beach. They'd just start early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
The wife would make the fire, my grandmother, and then everyone had a role to go collect clams or crabs or help with the fishing.
We
and
love
then-
to do that. We love to be
and
included.
then come home. So yeah,
My mother, would say, "What did you get today?" I'd
Right.
say, "I got a couple crabs."
well, and we went. It was my mom's idea. We went to go find crayfish here in San Diego when I was younger,
In the creek, yeah, that creek.
and I
that-
don't know if that was legal. Isn't that
There's a
protect
crayfish
over by
fishery.
Lake Hodges?
There might be. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It was the
We
80s.
used,
so
we used to that was a big deal with my family with
Uh-huh.
crawfishing,
yeah. Oh really?
and my father would put on his big crawfish fee every
Uh-huh.
year, and people bring food and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I grew up crawfishing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
What did you use for bait?
Usually salmon heads.
Oh, okay.
And in New Orleans,
We tried chicken.
everybody
Just remember we
everybody
used
sells
chicken.
a crayfish. They've all got crayfish. They make a pot. I forget what they have a word for that.
That's a Creole type
Like
Yeah.
a
But anyway,
jumbo.
what are they,
Gumbo,
jambalaya, jambalaya,
Is it? Yeah, same thing.
and
from
jambalaya. Anyway,
New Orleans.
they invite everybody over, and that's the main thing: is the kettle full of fresh jambalaya crayfish.
Yeah.
And there must be a lot of crayfish there, because everybody seems to have
Right.
crayfish. It's on every
Well,
menu.
When I think of my dad tried fishing for a while, he had some poles, and I must have been about 7, and my brother was 10, and we went
those
out
are
with
my
you.
father's poles.
They were your father's poles, really?
It's handmade.
So we, in the end, I think we got the crawfish because that was the only thing the kids could, get, and we.
Well, you don't get them with poles. You get
But
them
I
with
just
a, with a
mom
net.
says you didn't eat any of them because
She ate
thought
them all.
They were infected by
Well, that
pesticides
that
or not
sewage
pesticides,
went into that little creek. That was coming down from
Yeah.
Escondido, and it was going to sail.
Was it
going
Lake Hodges? Where we
off
were?
Lake Hodges?
Off Lake
Yeah, that was a
Hodges.
drainage off Lake
I
Hodges.
don't know, Mike. You know anything about?
I don't.
So anyway, yeah,
she
we
ate
ate
them
it.
all, and she had no harm, no ill effects.
Hopefully not. Yeah. Anyway.
Because apparently in Taiwan they eat a lot of crayfish. She was familiar with them, how to
Yeah.
catch them and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
She never could tell a good story though. She would just tell you the punchline, and the rest of the story,
Yeah.
she didn't tell you the rest of it.
Yeah. Well.
But she told me about the lake full of dead Chinese.
Well.
It was next to the house they lived in.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of I think with my mom's mental
Really
issues
shocking,
is
yeah.
some things that happened to her.